Hi everybody. Today we are starting to do a vlog for the last section of our class, which is the Public Land Survey System. So last week we watched a PowerPoint about some of the ideas about why the Public Land Survey System was created, and today we're going to kind of expand on that idea. So what you'll see on the screen right now is called Exhibit A, Certified Land Description. And the part that I'd like to bring to your attention is, hang on a second, let me fix this. There we go. The fact that as a certified land description, every certified land description, first of all, has to be stamped by a professional engineer. This is actually stamped by Lyle Casciato, who works for Engineering Associates. And he has gone through, he's actually Zane Flowers' boss. So Lyle is the guy who has the stamp, and his stamping this document is what makes it a legal document. Now, it may seem normal to you, or maybe you already have thought of this, but it's not legal in the United States to sell something that you don't own. So if you're selling a car, you have to have a title to a car. And it's usually easy to see what the car is. It has this VIN number, it has this color, this seats, whatever, this year, make, model, whatever. And that's how we know that when you buy a car, that you're getting a car that somebody owns. With land, it's a little bit iffier because we're not always sure that the boundaries are where we think they are. So a professional land surveyor stamping it and defining the boundaries is what makes the land sale a legal document. So this certified land description describes where it is, and the part that I'd like to call to your mind is right here, where it says a parcel of land in Farm Unit G according to a Farm Unit Plat or Lot 75G survey, then it says T55N R99 West 6 p.m. Park County. This is actually the address of this piece of land. Township 55 North, Range 99 West of the 6th Principal Meridian, Park County, Wyoming. And it says, then describes it further, the east 400.00 feet, so we're down to hundredths of a foot, of that part of Lot 75G lying north of 8th Street of the Krebs addition to the City of Powell, excepting that portion of land in this block. The parcel contains 7.8 acres more or less. Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, this is a plat that is a picture of that particular piece of land. Now, this is really important because, as you can see, we're talking about this shaded part. Okay, here's Division Street. Here's 8th Street. This is a shaded part that is being transferred. The ownership of this is being transferred. 7.80 acres more or less. Here's that Township 55 North, Range 99 West again. And all of this is put in place because, as you see, Lot 75G, which is the description of this entire thing, is quite a bit bigger. So you're just selling off a piece of that land. And this piece, actually, some of you may have guessed already, but this is Division Street, this is 8th Street. This is actually the soccer field. So this was deeded over to Northwest College in order for us to have a soccer field. But you can't sell what you don't own, and you don't want to sell something that you don't mean. So all of these things, these ideas that we're going into, really come down to where the rubber hits the road, have to do with describing land adequately so that we can sell it. Okay, and here's another certification. Now, the next page of this document is a warranty deed, and this is very similar to a title if you've ever sold a car. It's just saying, yep, we've got insurance, we guarantee this is where it is, and everything is notarized. It's a legal document, the sale goes through, and now ownership of that parcel of land has been transferred. And here are some other documents. Patrick Borer was a guy who worked here at this time, back in 1998, and he just is certifying his knowledge of this land. Then down here, you notice at the bottom it says file date, 4/10/98, file time, page 2 of 3, Park County, Marie-Fontaine County Clerk, and the document. All right, this means that it's filed in the Park County Courthouse, and that's what makes the transfer of that land a done deal. That's what makes it legal. And then we have some other things that have to do with title insurance. A warranty deed is the highest form of land transfer. It's the most secure type of a deed that you can have. Sometimes you cannot get a warranty deed. Sometimes you have to settle for something that is less secure. But a warranty deed is the very, very best. Once again, it's filed. And then here's an old, prior to photocopying document that indicates what the land was originally, or at least prior to this sale. And you'll see that this document was dated 1966, signed by the Shoshone Irrigation District and a notary public. All right, so this is the purpose. This is what we're getting at when we have a land transfer. Now this little thing that looks like an index card is exactly what it is. It is a document that indicates a corner cap on this particular piece of land. Hi everybody. I had a slight pause because I had somebody come into my office, so I'm continuing where I just left off. This card actually shows where the monument is. I'll show you a picture of what a monument looks like in just a moment, but this card is actually recorded in the Park County Courthouse, and that's what makes it legal. So the marks on here tell me that the corner, this is a brass cap. This is a little drawing showing where it's located, and this is the description. The marks on it describe where it's located. So continuing where we were, this cap is in a location, and this mark in a location that describes this particular corner, and this 3x5 card is on file in the county assessor's office at the courthouse in Cody. And it has to be, these have to be filed by a professional land surveyor because they are legal documents. So then this is just the fact, this just states that this cap was recorded so that that monument is official. Now, not every single monument is official, but that one is, because it's been recorded. So the process is on the ground, plant the monument, record the monument. Okay, so here is a picture, and I'm going to make it come down, of a survey cap in the Pryor Mountains in Montana. And I think we've been talking about this a little bit. But if you notice on the monument, it says that it's a bureau, it's the Department of the Interior, which is the Bureau of Land Management Cadastral Survey. And there are some markings on here as well. There's a township number, a range number, and then there's an X. And this monument actually marks this spot immediately underneath this X, and it tells you what the land divisions are around it. So this is what an official monument looks like. Now we'll be able to go out and take a look at the one for the soccer field if we have time this year. But it's kind of interesting to understand that all of these are recorded, and so there's on the ground, then there's the monument itself, and then there's the paperwork. So we kind of have a lot of it's just a lot of carryovers that way. So let's take a look at something else. This is a document that talks about the U.S. Public Land Survey System, and I have posted this to the Moodle page. But basically, it tells you a little bit about what we talked about last time, that the public lands are areas that have been owned and administered by the federal government, and it tells you the states that are part of the system. It started in 1785, which you may recall the Revolutionary War was 1776. So this has been going on a long time, pretty much as long as the U.S. has been a country. We've had the Public Land Survey System. So what it talks about, once again, is the fact that the public land system sort of supplants a meets and bounds description, which talks about points, beginning, distances, and directions and boundaries. But in the public land survey system, one of the purpose of the public land system, and I'll say this again, the purpose of the public land system, survey system, is the orderly disposition of lands. So this is a geometric grid system that relates every piece of land to an initial point in the public land survey system. We talked about the fact that an initial point is the intersection of a prime meridian and a baseline, and that here in Wyoming, we survey most of the land in Wyoming from the 6th principal meridian, which is over by Nebraska, Kansas. Let me see if there's a picture of it here. Nope. All right, I'll find one later. Sorry to make you dizzy like that. Anyway, the basic thing that you'll need to do in order to do your homework is stated here. And it basically says that public lands are divided into quadrangles, and that's the quadrangle is 24 miles by 24 miles. They start at an initial point. Quadrangles are usually named descriptively, like the North Fork quadrangle or the Bitter Creek quadrangle or something like this. The rest of it is pretty much a mathematical subdivision, which we'll talk about in a minute. But each quadrangle, 24 by 24, is divided up into townships. The word township is used twice in this process, but the quadrangle is 4 townships east and west, 4 townships north and south in a square. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can find. I have another document. So this document is on your Moodle page under PLSS tutorial, and this will give you sort of the nuts and bolts of doing your homework. The state that's shown here is the state of Wisconsin, and they talk about it being divided into a grid. But if you go down to the bottom here, or the bottom of this page, you'll see the way this grid looks. Now, we talked about the fact that land is first divided into a quadrangle. So here we go. Here's our principal meridian, and this is our baseline. So this point that the cursor is at right now is the initial point, and everything is surveyed from that point. So that means that this quadrangle, this section, this is a township is what it's called. So a town, if we look at this square right here, you see that the smaller squares, these are 6 miles by 6 miles in a perfect world. So if we go out 4 of these and up 4 of these, so we have a 24 by 24 mile square, that is referred to as a quadrangle. Now you may also remember that we have guide meridians, and they refer to them here as just supplementary survey lines. Those are the lines where we build in the correction for the curvature of the earth. But in a perfect world, we would come out 4 and go up 4, and we would have this 24 by 24 section of land, which is called a quadrangle. So you can see that in that quadrangle, if we took 6 mile squares, 6 mile by 6 mile chunks, we would have 4 times 4, or 16 of them, which means in a quadrangle there are 16 townships. Now the word township is used twice. It's used to describe this 6 mile by 6 mile square of land, and it's also used to describe the tier, or how far north or south we are of the initial point. So this entire tier is referred to as Township 1 North. This entire tier is referred to as Township 2 North. This entire tier is referred to as Township 1 South, and so forth. And that's always from the initial point. So from the initial point here, we go north and south in townships. We go east and west in values of range. So this entire column of land, the way it's drawn, is range 1 east. This entire column of land is range 1 west, and so forth. So when we are finding this unique, it's essentially an address for a piece of land, we start by calling out the township and the range. So this particular drawing is talking about this township, which if we go from the initial point, we go west 2 and down 1, 2. So this is township, this square is township 2 south, range 2 west. This township, right here where my cursor is placed, would be township 1 north, range 1 east, and so forth. So let's go back and take a quick look at our document about Powell. So bring this over here. This is that Krebs subdivision. If you look here, we're township 55 north, range 99 west. That's always of a principal meridian. So that means that we are 55 times 6 miles north and 99 times 6 miles west, more or less, of the 6th principal meridian. So I just wanted to show you how that works and how that relates to this idea. Obviously, it's just sort of impractical to draw this idea of 55 north and 98 west because it's a long way from the initial point. The other thing that you might want to notice is that if you look back at the survey cap, you'll see that it says township 25 north, range 27 east. Now that would be of the principal meridian. So it's interesting that Powell is northwest of its principal meridian, but this cap in the Pryor Mountains just north of us is south or north and east of its principal meridian. The reason for that is because this is in Montana, it's been measured from the unnamed Montana principal meridian, which is over kind of by Bozeman. So this location shows from that principal meridian, as do all survey markers. So I just wanted to show you that because all the parts of the land description, which is what we're talking about, are important. Not only the township and the range, but also the principal meridian that you're being measured from. All right, so going back to this picture, when you have a township, which is the 6 mile by 6 mile square, the township, 6 mile by 6 miles is pretty much a formidable amount of land. In the old days where people were farming with oxen, no human being could farm that amount of land. So they further divided each of those townships into sections. And as you can see, this township, 6 miles by 6 miles, is divided into 36 1-mile square. Each one of those squares is referred to as a section. So this in the upper right-hand corner, or it's the northeast corner more precisely, is section 1. Then section 2, section 6, come down 1 tier, 7 to 12, 13 to 18, and so forth, until the most southeast section is section 36. Now, it's interesting to note, in the United States, we always start our sectioning in the northeast, continue westward, drop down 1 tier, continue eastward to 12, drop down 1 tier to 13, and so forth. So there's sort of like this meandering pattern of numbering sections. This pattern is referred to by a Greek word. The word is boustrophodonic. B-O-U-S-T-R-O-P-H-E-D-O-N-I-C. Boustrophodonic is from the same root word as bovine, and it actually means the bovine they're talking about is an ox. And what it means is as the oxen plows. What it means is you start here with the ox, you plow in this pattern. You wouldn't start here and go to 6 and then come back here and start a new line because the oxen just wants to pick up where it left off. So this is the way it is. And that has to do with how the sections were actually chained. Because if you think about men being out there with chains and carts, maybe horses, this is a kind of a pattern that eliminates the most number of unnecessary steps. So once again, now we have an initial point, we have a quadrangle, we have a township, and we have a section. And a section we've gotten down to. A section is the basic unit of measure in the public land survey system. And in a perfect world, it's 1 mile by 1 mile. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So each one of these is 5,280 feet by 5,280 feet. And how many times do you think a section is perfect? The answer is almost never. But it can also be thought of as being 80 chains by 80 chains. It can also be thought of as being an aerial measure of 640 acres, which once again, in old-time farming, 640 acres was not a human scope of land. So they further subdivided these sections into sectional subdivisions, which we see right here. So what they did was they divided sections into quarter sections, and then they divided further into quarter. Now these kind of parts are referred to as aliquot parts, A-L-I-Q-U-O-T. And what aliquot literally means is divide the error. So this is accounting for the fact that this line may not be exactly 5,280 feet. And if it's not, if it were, for example, 5,200 feet, you wouldn't give this guy more land, you would divide the error. So that means instead of this being 2,640, this would be 2,600 feet, and this would be 2,600 feet. So whenever you see parts labeled as northeast, northwest, southwest, and so forth, those are aliquot parts. It means that they have divided the error. There are other parts that are sometimes referred to as lots or tracts or farm units that are divided differently, and the specs on those are a little ambiguous sometimes. But if you see quarters like this, then they're aliquot parts, and the errors should be divided. All right, so in a regular section, this would be the northwest quarter, the southwest quarter. This quarter right here that has the star in it would be called, there would be 16 of these, right, in the section. So you call it by a quarter of a quarter. This would be referred to as the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter. This would be referred to as the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, and so forth. So the designation getting from small to large would be to call this the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter of section 13 of township 2 south, range 2 west of the, for example, 6th principal meridian. And then you can call it out as if it were in Park County, for example, Park County, Wyoming. So this is what your homework is going to have you talk about, is creating these kinds of subdivisions based on this addressing in the public land survey system. So let me see if I can find your homework really quick. All right, so here on our Moodle page, this is for engineering surveying, but I'll show it to you on practical surveying in just a moment. When we come down to all of this information on the public land survey system, you'll see that for the week of April 18th to April 24th, we have the PLSS tutorial, which I've talked about today, the U.S. Public Lands document, the land description document, the survey cap in the prior mountains, and the Chapter 12 homework. All right, so when you hit submit Chapter 12, submit homework number 12 PLSS due May 1st, here is the document that is the homework. So there are several questions that are based on this vlog that I've given, and if you can, when you answer these questions for these ones, you'll have to draw a block. You can do it on this block, or you can draw another one, and I would really recommend drawing another one. When we say common section, it's kind of a funny term, because what we mean is the uncommon case where everything is perfect. So in other words, the quadrangle is 24 by 24. Each one of the townships is 6 by 6. Each one of the sections is 1 by 1, and each is divided equally into aliquot parts. The one thing I want to show you is we talked about quarter sections. Quarters. This reads southwest quarter section. This is the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of the section. Now this is the north half. What that means is that if we have a square like this, if we're talking about the north half, like this would be the north half of the northeast quarter. This would be the south half of the northeast quarter. This would be the east half of the northeast quarter, and this would be the west half of the northeast quarter. So in other words, quarters are more common. Quarter sections is what they'll call them. One reason is because of the acreage. If an entire section is 640 acres, a quarter then would be 160, and each quarter would be 40 acres. And 40 acres is a good sized farm field. So considering the history of where this system developed, 40 acres is a good allocation. So if a quarter is 40 acres, a half of a quarter would be 80 acres, more or less, once again. All right, everybody, so that's it for PLSS. This is our last content vlog, and this is your last homework assignment. In engineering surveying, this homework assignment is number 12. In practical surveying, the same documents are in your webpage as in the engineering surveying, but we have the same homework assignment, but here it's homework 9. So you guys actually have had only 9 homework assignments, whereas the engineering surveyors have had 12. All right, so get everything in, get caught up, and if you have any questions about your grade, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in lab this afternoon, which this afternoon is April 24th. We'll be there at 3, and we're going to go out and use the total station again. So we'll see you then.